Have you ever really stopped to think about what people believe about you the very instant they hear your voice? I'm not talking about after you've said your brilliant opening line, but in that first tiny fraction of a second. Well, the answer is kind of shocking and also incredibly powerful. Turns out we're sized up almost instantly, and it's not based on our words, but on the simple sound of our voice. So, what on earth is going on in that split second? Let's find out. 200 milliseconds. That's it. That is the exact amount of time it takes for a listener to form a judgment about your competence and your confidence, based on nothing, absolutely nothing, more than the sound of your voice. And just to put that into perspective for you, blinking your eye takes about 300 to 400 milliseconds. So yeah, this judgment is happening way before your listener can even consciously process what's happening. We're talking about a pure subconscious gut reaction. So this brings up a pretty huge question, doesn't it? Are you either winning over or, well, losing your audience before you've even managed to finish your very first word? The science, it suggests that's exactly what's happening. Okay, so how is that even possible? It all comes down to the science of how our brains are literally hardwired to process sound. And believe me, it's probably not what you're thinking. Let's think about it this way. Your brain is all about priorities. It processes the how before it gets to the what. So before your brain even starts to figure out what your words actually mean, it's already done a full analysis on the delivery. You know, the pitch, the pace, the resonance. Your tone of voice gets the first say, and it sets the stage for everything that comes after. But why? Why did we evolve to be this way? The answer is pretty cool, actually. It's a primal shortcut, baked into our brains for one reason: survival. This has nothing to do with modern conference rooms. It goes way, way back to our most ancient instincts. And this is where it gets really mind-blowing. The analysis of your voice, it starts in just 6 milliseconds. The very moment those sound waves hit the eardrum, the brain is already on the job, already starting to form an assessment. 6 milliseconds. So let's just break down this whole subconscious thing. The instant sound hits the eardrum, a clock starts ticking. Within just 6 milliseconds, the brain is analyzing the tone. And by the 200 millisecond mark, boom, it's taken all that data and cooked up a full-blown judgment on your competence and confidence. It's just a rapid, super efficient, and deeply ingrained survival tool. You see, this all points back to an evolutionary need. For our ancestors, figuring out if a stranger was a threat or a potential ally was, a life or death situation. A low, calm tone, that signaled confidence, status, no threat. But a high, tense one, that could mean fear or even deception. Our modern brains are still running on that same ancient software. Okay, so that's how the listener's brain works. We get it, but what can we, as the speakers, actually do about it? Well, this is where we shift from the problem to the solution. And the key is all about understanding and, more importantly, controlling what's called our lowest natural tone. So look, on the left, you can see what happens when we're stressed. Our vocal cords tighten up, and that produces a higher pitch that the brain just reads as uncertainty. But on the right, when we're relaxed, when we're grounded, our vocal cords loosen up, producing that lower, more resonant pitch that the brain instinctively hears as authoritative and competent. This, right here, is the whole secret: your lowest natural tone. Now, this isn't about faking a deep voice or anything like that. No. It's about finding that specific pitch where your voice is at its most relaxed and most resonant. That is the vocal signature that subconsciously tells every single brain listening to you that you are calm, you are confident, and you are in control. All right, so we've got the theory down, we understand the neuroscience. Now, how do we actually put this stuff into practice so we can consciously take control of that first impression? Let's wrap this all up with some clear, actionable things you can use right away. So here it is, your vocal authority checklist. First, always remember, judgments are instant. You don't get time for a warm-up. Second, your tone will always be processed before your words, so you have to make it count. Third, the physical key to this is just simple vocal cord relaxation. A great trick is to take a silent, deep breath right before you speak. And finally, remember, the goal is not some artificially deep voice. It's about finding your lowest, most resonant, natural tone. So what's the big takeaway here? This isn't about being some helpless victim to another person's subconscious bias. Not at all. It's about understanding the machine. When you learn to control your own physiology, when you learn to speak from a place of relaxation, you literally gain the power to shape that 200 millisecond judgment in your favor. So I'm going to leave you with this question. The next time you open your mouth to speak, whether it's in a big meeting, on a phone call, or just introducing yourself to someone new, you know that the clock starts ticking at 6 milliseconds. So now that you're in on the secret, what will your voice say about you?